Cash flow is the lifeblood of real estate investing, and spotting it is easier than you think. Hey everybody, I'm Randy Wolfe, and before we dive in, be sure to subscribe to this channel if you are wanting to learn how to invest in real estate. And if you like, you can check out my private real estate community where I coach new and aspiring real estate investors. That link is in the description below. So to spot cash flow, focus on three things. Thing number one is income. Income comes from obviously a variety of sources potentially, but the big one is rent. So you have rent, you've got potentially things like parking, laundry, those sort of things. Always, always, always estimate this on a conservative side. You don't want to overestimate your income and miss the mark on that, because that can really affect whether or not it's going to be something that can cash flow. Okay. Number two is expenses. So expenses, there's a rule that you can use. It's the 50% rule. And then when you buy single family homes particularly, you can estimate, depending on your leverage obviously, that about 50% of the rent is going to go towards expenses. These are things like property management, mortgage, taxes, insurance, repairs, vacancy, CapEx, those sort of things. Again, it's not perfect, and obviously if you pay all cash for a property, then it's not going to necessarily be 50% because you're not servicing a mortgage. But in general, if you're going in and you've got roughly, let's say 20% or so equity, depending on the interest rates, about 50% of that is going to go of the rent is going to go towards expenses. And then the third thing is financing. Make sure the rent minus expenses like mortgage, all of the things that you're going to have in the expense category, property management, all those things, make sure that after that you still have a profit. The big one is obviously your mortgage and taxes and insurance. Those are the three biggies that are going to biggest expense. And then you're going to have these other things I mentioned like CapEx. You're going to have maintenance and repairs, property management, all of those things. Because let's face it, when you have rental properties, y'all, things break. You're going to have stuff that breaks. You're going to have things that need to be replaced. You're going to have HVAC units that go out and all the things. So you've got to make sure that you're calculating all of those things. Pro tip, don't just chase the highest rent either. Lower cost markets oftentimes might produce cash flow that's a little bit stronger. But then again, you've got to think about the tenant and the turnover. And so if you're looking at investing in areas where it's a really, really like D-class areas, that sort of thing, and you could definitely have a lot of turnover and you can have a lot of damage to properties and that sort of things. Not always the case, but just be smart. Don't necessarily just think that lower cost markets are going to produce the best type of cash flow. Now, there are certain markets, if you're looking on a national level, talking about like Midwest and stuff like that, if you're investing outside of where you live in the Midwest, in a sense, these are lower cost markets that have higher cash flow, but they don't appreciate as much. But what I'm saying when I'm talking lower cost markets is where you live. Let's say you've got an area where you can buy houses for a lot cheaper because it's a war zone. Oftentimes there's a lot of cost involved with those types of properties that really are going to eat into your cash flow overall. So I've got 2 action steps that you can take today. The first one is run numbers on one property today using that 50% rule I just mentioned. You can take a random property, you can look at something that's currently listed on the market or whatever, and just run that number and see kind of approximately what you'd be paying in the, if you use the 50% rule, what kind of expenses you would be looking at. This is great because you can actually, as I said on some other videos, there's these quick rules you can use. They're rule of thumb, but you always want to deep dive into the underwriting when you get further in the due diligence process. But use that rule today, check out one property, see what comes back, and then compare 2 markets and see which yields better monthly profit. This is a good test that you can use. If you're looking locally, you can compare like, 2 different zip codes or 2 different areas, or if you're looking nationally, you can look at 2 different locations, 2 different markets in other states, that sort of thing. But compare those and see which one yields better monthly profit. When I talk about taking action, this is something that you can actually do, even though maybe you're not buying a property. You're actually taking action and doing something versus just consuming information. So do that, and that can definitely help you get a better grasp and understanding of how you can figure out cash flow. Cash flow is simple when you know where to look. So apply this today and be sure to subscribe for more, and consider joining my private community if you want to get that coaching I talked about earlier. As always, I appreciate you watching today, and I'll see you on the next video.